Ed Brisson and Roland Boschi head to the Great White North as Alpha Flight fight a losing battle against the Squadron Supreme, who will stop at nothing to get revenge on Weapon X for killing Hyperion 2 years prior, even if it means blowing up the entire country. Ed Brisson tells a rather interesting tale of both Weapon X and Alpha Flight in a completely different world, in that we have joined them in their final act, with a team who is very much broken and beaten and in its death throes. It was an interesting way to tell a story, seeing as the book easily could have been about the big Squadron Supreme Alpha Flight battle teased at the beginning of this issue as well as in Heroes Reborn issue 7, but instead Brisson uses the time in the book to explore the relationships between this version of Alpha Flight and their takes on the war that they are losing. Wolverine's characterization throughout the issue is pretty good, and I enjoy how he is every bit the cynical, bullheaded man we know, and he still has trauma, except it's not from Weapon X this time, whereas in the main continuity he gets a lot of trauma through Weapon X and what he did through that program, whereas here Weapon X is seen as a good thing for him, and it's what gave him his powers and allowed him to fight back and defeat tyranny, and it's a very interesting way to take the character. Roland Boschi of Ghost Rider fame takes a stab at mutants this time round, and his distinctive art style fits this strange collection of heroes and villains really well. His use of shadow and his simple backgrounds were quite fantastic and drew attention all to the great action and character designs he had a big hand in creating. Heroes Reborn, Weapon X and Final Flight issue 1 was an interesting way to tell a story, showcasing how beaten and defeated other places in the world are thanks to the iron will of the Squadron Supreme of America, but it is also a testament to the never give up attitude of Wolverine and his team. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10. Heroes Reborn, Weapon X and Final Flight finds Weapon X leading Alpha Flight to begin their assault on the Squadron Supreme after killing Hyperion with his magical enhanced claws. Logan knows that the look he saw in Hyperion's face was that of surprise, that what could possibly kill him, the same look that Logan had. Weapon X battles Nighthawk as the rest of the squad pick apart Alpha Flight with ease. Nighthawk beats down Weapon X, saying that because of Hyperion's indestructibility, he never had to consider his opponents, and he forgot the importance of studying one's opponent, like he did with Weapon X. Weapon X remembers the squad leading the American military into Canada and bombing it into oblivion for daring to fight back, as he asks Nighthawk how he's going to destroy him, wondering if he will talk him to death. Charmer knows that they did what they came to do, knowing that there is no reason for any more of the Alpha Flight to die. He casts his magic over the battlefield as Weapon X knows that he's got his revenge on Hyperion for all of those he lost, but he also signed their death certificates in the process. The team disappear as the squadron are left to wonder where they have gotten to, with Blur upset he didn't get to kill Aurora, since then he could say he killed twins, since he killed her twin brother. Nighthawk knows that they can't run forever, as 2 years later in Oshawa, a squad assaults a mansion, storming in and taking the people inside prisoner as Nighthawk arrives, knowing that the people know where Alpha Flight is, and they are harboring terrorists, and that comes with a 20-year minimum sentence. That is, unless they cooperate. The next night in Sudbury, Alpha Flight return to base, where Logan asks where the whiskey is. He learns from Hudson that Oshawa was taken the night before, and the squadron are definitely behind this, since within the last month, they have put more than 100 Canadian patriots in prison for supporting Alpha Flight. Guardian wants to break them out of prison and nuke the facility, with Shaman teleporting them in and out, but Hudson says that the squadron would be waiting for them and they don't care about prosecuting the patriots they have imprisoned, and they are using them as bait to lure the team out. Walt knows that Claire is right and they can't leave them, but Weapon X says that they are fighting the country and they knew that what they signed up for. Walt morphs into Sasquatch, knowing that this has nothing to do with the war, and it's all about the squadron wanting revenge for him killing Hyperion, and Logan wanting revenge for them killing Jean Grey. Shaman tells them all to stop, since everyone is on edge and they need to get some rest. Aurora takes Sasquatch back to their quarters as Claire gets ready to make some repairs to her armor, and Hudson wants to run some tests on Weapon X. Later that night, Walt tells Aurora that he doesn't think that he can do this anymore, and that there is no end to the running. He knows that they promised Claire's parents that they would look out for her, but they never wanted this life for her, and they should be nurturing her genius and guiding her towards a better future. Instead, they are taking her from one fight to the next. Shaman also hasn't been the same since the death of his daughter, and Logan won't admit that they have lost already. And it's almost like he forgets that they are talking about innocent people, acting like they are all soldiers and nothing but cannon fodder. Walt knows that they have to stop doing this, and Aurora says that she won't leave this life since they killed her brother and she can't just walk away from that. Logan meanwhile finishes up his tests with Professor Hudson, finding his adamantium is holding strong, but he hasn't had much of a chance to test out his healing factor. Professor Hudson is concerned with what Logan was fighting about before, since something is clearly on his mind. As Logan dresses, he knows every time he closes his eyes he sees Jean, Puck, North Star and the rest, all asking why their killers are still walking around alive. He knows that they are meant to save the country, and it is why the professor picked them, so that someone would stand up against the squadron, but they didn't stand a chance. Logan doesn't know what the hell is going on these days as well, since they are always running from town to town to put out fires, and it's like putting a band-aid on a dead body. He wants to take the fight to the squadron, but instead they are holed up there fighting with each other and fighting with Walt. Hudson knows that Walt thinks that he's protecting lives of those still there, but Hudson says when he and his brother Mac begun Weapon X, they chose Logan as their first test subject because he was the only one who could lead the team if anything happened to Mac, and he would do the right thing when it counted. And that hasn't changed at all, but he cannot keep going down this path since it only leads to death. The next morning, Logan calls a team meeting, only to learn that Sasquatch is gone, with Aurora not knowing where he went, but the news about the Patriots in the prisons really got to him. Claire wants to go and find him, but Weapon X knows that's not happening, since if he wants to go, then he can't stop him, and he can't stop anyone else from leaving as well. Not blaming them if they want to leave, since all they have been doing is waiting for the squadron, but in doing so they've been putting people's lives at risk, and Sasquatch couldn't live with that anymore, and neither can he. Logan tells the group that if the squadron wants to send their jackbooted thugs to take them down in their safe houses, maybe it's time they give the squadron what they want. 10 days later in Nova Scotia, Alpha Flight ambushes one of the squadron's teams, blowing through them with ease as the men run like cowards. They round up the men thanks to Shaman capturing them all, interrogating them for where Nighthawk is, but he didn't come on this raid and the men don't know why. Weapon X wants them to pass a message along to him, saying this is Canadian soil and they can have Alberta and British Columbia and all of the oil and lumber, but everything else there is they will fight for. If the squadron don't listen to that, then the next team will be sent walking out of there in body bags. The next day, Walt returns to the base and Logan wonders why, so the man says he thought he could deal with the prison himself, and while the people would be fugitives, they wouldn't be locked up. He reveals that he gathered info on where the people were being held, and he finally got a lead, learning that the people are being tried for treason and hanged, with them being transported to the US tomorrow. Walt knows that he cannot do this by himself and the team needs to help. Claire is all for it, as is Logan, wanting to work out a plan of attack as Aurora welcomes the distant Walt back into the team. The next day, Alpha Flight attack the truck, but upon ripping open the back, they find the Squadron Supreme waiting for them. Hyperion grabs Logan and takes him away while Power Princess cuts up Guardian's armor. Shaman gets ready to enchant Logan's claws, but Sasquatch grabs him, apologizing as he knocks out Shaman. Logan meanwhile knows he's never had to kill the same man twice, as Hyperion says that for 2 years he's been thinking about this day and how he could repay Logan for the favor. Aurora meanwhile beats down Blur, but is knocked out by Nighthawk as Guardian is also subdued. Hyperion says that Shaman won't be helping Logan now as he too is beaten by the hero. Logan says he doesn't need Shaman to help him since he can take down Hyperion himself, but Logan however knows in his mind that he cannot, as Hyperion beats Logan over and over and over until he is a bloody mess. Using his atomic vision, Hyperion burns Logan into a charred corpse, as Dr. Spectrum hopes his revenge is satisfied. Hyperion tells his teammate to take Logan as he speeds off into the air with the burned corpse. Hyperion intends on killing the rest of the Alpha Flight, but Nighthawk knows they had a deal, that Logan died and the rest get to live. Aurora is outraged by this, but she is knocked out by Power Princess as Nighthawk tells the team that the prisoners will be freed, and with Logan gone, their interests in Canada are satisfied, and the rest of Alpha Flight are free, with any questions to be directed at Sasquatch. Alpha Flight confront Walt for his betrayal, with Aurora uselessly beating his chest as Guardian intends on shooting him. Walt says he sold his soul for them all and thinks that he should be shot, putting the gun to his head. Claire can't do it, however, cold cocking him instead, knowing that they won't kill one of their own. Walt says he knew the squadron wouldn't stop coming and promised him that if they gave up Logan, the Canadians would go free, and if he didn't give up Logan, they would all die. He knows after this, his life isn't worth anything, but he couldn't let them kill the rest of the team, not after they already lost. Aurora knows that that wasn't his decision to make, but Walt says that they had already won and that was the only way. Logan meanwhile is still alive, but barely, as he is dumped in the Black Galaxy on a long dead world, devoid of any water or oxygen. Logan remembers an old saying about revenge and how you must dig 2 graves, one for your enemy and one for yourself. As Spectrum leaves, knowing without any of the oxygen or water, his healing factor will be useless and his stay there will be very unpleasant. Logan knows that Hyperion wasn't the only one guilty of being overconfident about not getting killed, since he was even more so, and whether he or Walt dug it doesn't matter, since the second grave was always going to be his.